yeah, now it's turned into a weekly necessity. And I think at Bristol, Priest told me, he said, hey, man, I was bringing him in the hall. He's like, oh, are those the cookies? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you got to make sure those things are here every week. They're like jet fuel for my jack man. It's like going down a 3-lane highway, maybe a 4-lane highway that's packed with traffic. And like, if you're stuck at the back of the line and they're 4 wide, there's just nowhere to go. And like, you're stuck, and it's really hard to figure out how to maneuver through that to get to the front.
Welcome in, everybody, to Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing on Sirius XM NASCAR Radio, Channel 90. I'm Chris Childers, joined today by Mike Massaro from RFK. It's always good to have Mike alongside. And Mike and I are excited because we got one of our favorites back on the program, the crew chief of the number 17, Mr. Scott Graves. Great to have him back. Good to see him. And exciting season so far. We're in the playoffs, and that's a good place to be at this point of the season. Scott Graves, plenty to talk about, but before we get into it all, how you been, man? How was the off week? How'd it treat you?
That was good. Thanks for the intro. That was a lot of hype there. That was good.
Hey, we give a lot of hype to our favorite guys, and you've always been a pleasure. You were a staple last year, and certainly we enjoyed having you tell the story of the number 17 car and the ups and downs throughout the year with Chris Buescher. This year, kind of the same deal. Things have gone pretty well, I would say. 14th at this point. So if the season ended today in the playoffs, there's worse places you could be. How would you describe, in your words, after having a week to ponder, where this team is going into Talladega?
Yeah, we've had some ups and downs. I mean, there's I think we've had a lot of top 10s. I was looking at it earlier. We've had, I think, 4 finishes inside the top 8. But then we've also, our bad days have been worse than you would like. Some 25th, 24th, 25th place type things. So we gotta clean that up. That's so ups and downs at this point. Still looking to get a little better. Obviously overall, and really the thing I've been talking to the team about is like stage points. That's the thing that we really got to be working on to elevate ourselves in the standings and make ourselves kind of distance ourselves from the rest of the group a little bit.
Yeah, what's one of the things of the many things that have stood out about the 17 team this year to me, aside from the consistency. I mean, you mentioned the ups and downs, but I don't see that the peaks and valleys necessarily quite as clearly as you do. It seems like Chris is fairly consistent across the board, but one thing that has really been consistent to me has been your pit crew, the guys over the wall.
Yeah. Those
guys have been stellar.
Yeah. They this year they've really they've come a long ways. I think they're kind of establishing themselves as one of the better teams on pit road right now. I've been really happy with where we're at, but it's taken a couple of years too. Like we had some struggles, for the last few years, and it's really, I guess as a team they're starting to mature. The group's been together now for this group's been together for the better part of a year. And they're really starting to come into their own, and I'm really happy with that part of it.
Yeah, it's shown. I mean, the quick stops, consistent stops.
Yeah.
Dare I say it? Very few mistakes, if any.
Yeah. That's part of the key right now. I mean, like the details of every part of it. I mean, I don't know. It seems like you used to be able the days like you used to just have a fast car, and if you had that, you could overcome a lot of stuff. But it's just not like that now. I mean, you got to have the consistency in all group. It's got to be the car, the whole team with all the details, the pit crew. There's so many parts have to go your way, but it all has to be working together really well right now.
Got to have the complete package, Chris.
You do. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. We'll get into the Bristol results here in a minute, but they've been pretty damn good across the board, as we've touched on here throughout the season. So with that said, the pit crew's been great, as you guys talked about, and everybody's feeling confident inside the garage. As a crew chief, when the pit crew is performing at a high level, you have a great familiarity and comfort level with Chris. You've been with him for many years. Is it easier to sleep at night? Like, I'm curious, as a crew chief, what are the things you worry about week to week? And how many people, like, are there times, how should I phrase this? Are there times where in years past you were worried about, I don't know, a jack guy, a tire guy, whatever, And this year, are you more worried about, the actual ins and outs, the luck, so to speak, as opposed to actually the people on your staff getting it done, if that makes sense?
Yeah, it's almost it's weird. I almost feel more stressed this year.
Really?
Yeah, just because
You have a higher expectation for yourself?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like we're so close to like establishing ourselves at kind of the next level of where I'd
Yeah.
like us to be. And so now it's like when we have a bad week, I think I take it harder than I used to in the past. Like I get more upset about it. I think just my expectations are higher, and I think as a whole team, our expectations are higher. So it's almost a little more stressful. Like when you have a day, like say, like when you slip back a little bit and you're not performing where you think you need to be. I feel like I almost take it a little bit harder right now.
It's interesting, and I understand that. I mean, and I think that's a good problem to have when you feel like there's been a lot invested in this team, when you feel like you have everybody performing at a high level. At that point, it's like, all right, then let's go get the job done. We don't
Yes.
have any excuses
Exactly.
anymore, so we better go get it done. But you guys have. I think at this point, you can feel pretty good about it. How about Bristol? I feel like every time I talk to anybody about Bristol, it's a different story every year. The tires certainly have been a massive situation. How would you describe this edition of Bristol that we saw right before Easter?
Yeah, I mean, just what you just said. It's practice was like it was almost, I don't know, it wasn't worth really a lot to us because of how quickly the tires were worn. I mean, we watched our teammates go out, and Brad ran just a couple laps at a time, and then before we know it, you look over in the 60 and like the right front's got cords all over it. I mean, we're looking up and down pit road and there's cars with, corded tires, and we're like, oh, great. Okay. What do we do here? And we go out and run, and, our balance for some reason was different than our teammates. And even though we were all fairly similar, and then, same thing within, we ran 30 something laps. Right front tire was starting to show some cords on it. So we all had flashbacks of the spring race last
Right.
year.
I can't blame you.
We start looking at our notes. We're like, okay, this is actually worse wear than we had in the spring race last year. And we're looking at temperature, and we're like, okay, it's going to be really similar on race day to maybe even 5 degrees cooler. So in our mind, we're prepped for like, all right, this is going to be a tire management race just like the spring race was last year. Pretty much sold on that in my mind, and that's kind of all we talked about was, all right, we got to manage the start of this race, see where it's at. Just don't be the first one to have a tire issue. So the race gets started. We kind of started on that outside lane. Everybody pulled down to the bottom real quick. We kind of got hung out there for a little bit, get shuffled to the back, and then it's like, all right, take a breather here. We're shuffled back, but we're in line, saving tires with everybody else. And then all of a sudden like that, the 5 car's like, yeah, you know what? We're good. And he starts rolling, and they're like, well, now we don't have any track position and we're stuck in the back. And a place like that, I mean, the leaders are on your tail before you know it.
How do you explain it? You just described what happened on Saturday. Extensive tire wear up and down both pit roads because there's front stretch and back stretch at Bristol. Everybody had tire issues in practice, so to speak. There were all kinds of indications that Sunday was going to be a tire management race.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't.
Yeah.
How do you explain it?
I wish I knew. I don't know. I guess there has to be such a fine line on what temperature is okay versus not, because I go back to last spring, and temperature-wise I would say was actually very similar, if not a few degrees warmer, but there was more cloud cover, and it was, kind of stayed shaded up, compared to this year. I even, when I looked at the start of the race, like one of the things, the indicators is like, let's look at the marbling on the track and what happens, and like the color of the track. Practice on Saturday, there was some rubber down from the Xfinity cars, and as soon as the Cup practice started, the track went white. Like all that rubber just came right up, the track turned white, and you could start to see like the real fine, I don't even know if I'd call them marbles, but just the balls of rubber, and the real light, and they kind of like float away as the cars go by, and you're like, yeah, okay, that's that's the sign of we're having going to have some tire issues. And then on Sunday, like we saw some of that really early on. You could see off the corners, you could see the rubber kind of building up, and it would just blow down the track when the cars would go by. So I was like, yeah, it looks like it's going to happen that way. But then it didn't really turn white like it did on Saturday. It kind of kept a little bit of color to it, and I guess there was just enough sun out and right at that line on the temperature, and
it did get a little warmer on Sunday. I noticed that because I had it was pretty cold when we first got there to begin the weekend.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Saturday was definitely. I mean, it was overcast. It was 10 or 15 degrees cooler with overcast, and I guess that's just the line the line we're playing on. Right? It's a tough one to read.
Is it? So I'm kidding. Scott Graves, our guest here on Backstretch Banter with RFK, Chris Childers, and Mike Massaro. So Bristol, I brought it up that I think it's the track that I hear the most about. Like Brad last week was talking about like going into that race that the year before they had this whole plan and then it goes to hell and they're just kind of stuck. Is this the track that's become the biggest pain in the butt to prepare for? Are there others like it? Is it because of what it is, the length of it? Why has Bristol become such a challenge? And give me some other examples of ones that sometimes you just have to throw it out.
Yeah, it's for sure. Like, I look at it. I mean, a couple of years ago, 22, we won a race at Bristol. 23, we finished in the top 5. The spring race of 24, both of our cars were inside the top 10. It's like a place that we felt like we used to have a handle on. And then really it started, I'd say, like last fall, and then this race here this spring. Something's obviously changed for us. So in what we used to bring that was running well, we really got to change our plan because it's not working well here the last couple of races, and we got to figure that part out. And it makes it so tough because it's the short tracks. Like there's no room for error. Like if you're on the back of the pack, like say, the leaders are there so fast, and one of the things you fall into, like when you're back in the pack, like you're racing really hard just to maintain your position or to even try to pick off one spot. The advantage the leaders have, one of the top couple cars is like they've got the clean air. They're not running nearly as hard, I guess, to go as fast as they're going. They don't have to run as hard as the guys that are fighting tooth and nail in the back of the pack.
Sure.
So by the time the leaders get to you, like your stuff's all worn up. You're done, and the leader can usually just pick you off pretty easily at that point and work their way through. And it's you fall into that trap if you get at the back of the field on the short tracks. Bristol, Martinsville, Richmond's a really bad one. If you really got to fight for the track position early in the race, like the first stage. You got to be. Bristol, like the number was going into it. Our number was like you got to be inside the top 23 to not go a lap down in the first stage, and it was like 24th or 25th.
With that in mind, Scott, how much does that force you to take risks with strategy to make sure that you don't fall into that area where you're at risk of getting lapped, where maybe you decide to stay out on a set of tires, do something like that so that you're not outside the top 23, I think is what you said.
Right, yeah, for sure. Early in a race like that, you got to look at those. You got to look at those options. The other problem that's come up with Bristol the last 2 races is there just aren't any cautions.
And we saw that.
That makes it really difficult to play any strategy moves. Like you're locked. That's one thing. I looked at the race we won there. We started in a similar spot. Like we started, I think, around 20th or something like that. But there were cautions and there were strategy plays all night, and you saw the field flipping and people doing stuff, which to me makes it more interesting when you have that because it's not just so locked in like that everybody just has to do the same thing. That's the thing to me that's disappeared at Bristol in the last couple of races is it's just gone green, and it's just been like everybody does the same thing, and there's really no options to try anything different.
I think folks who can think back as far as you and I can at Bristol think that is quite odd that there are that many long green flag runs at Bristol, because we all can remember when that was definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Why has it changed?
I I mean, I don't know, man. I know like old Bristol used to be, you know, everybody would be on the bottom lane, and there was always the bumping, and you know,
maybe there was a single groove to it at one point.
Yeah, there was a single groove around the bottom, and if you were the slow car, then you're getting pushed out of the way, and sometimes that turned into a caution. It's just not like that now. I guess one good thing is it's wide enough, so there's room to race, but it's also there's room to race, so you don't really have the contact. Yeah, I mean, just the way it's been playing out, it's just
long green flag
runs. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It really is how that's happened the last couple of goes here at Bristol. But so what's interesting is you say we got to change up, and then watch next time we're going to have a bunch of cautions, and it's going to be a completely different race, right? Just watch that happen next time.
Yeah.
That would just be the luck, right? Scott Graves, our guest, the crew chief for Chris Buescher. Driver of the number 17 is Chris. And this week, they got a pretty darn cool wrap on the car. It is the Travel Centers of America, which are always great when you're out on a road trip. Ryan Preece is driving the Celsius Kroger 60, and Brad Keselowski in the Build Subs number 6 this weekend as we go to Talladega. And Talladega is going to be a whole... another barrel of fun to talk about on this show. We got some cool races back to back with the Easter holiday packed in between there. But Bristol, awesome track for various reasons, and Talladega, awesome track for a whole different bunch of various reasons. So we'll get into that. Plus, I hear that Scott has become quite popular around the garage because he brings the desserts of choice, and we'll talk about that when we come back. Oh, yes, I've heard he's quite popular. We'll discuss it on the way back right here on Backstretch Banter with RFK. We're back here on Backstretch Banter with RFK on SiriusXM NASCAR Radio Channel 90. I'm Chris Childers, joined by Mike Massaro, who is an official worker bee down there in North Carolina for RFK. And with us today is one of the stars of the team, the crew chief of the number 17, Mr. Scott Graves. Been fun to talk to him about the season up to this point, and Bristol and Talladega is coming up. And I would assume you will be making your trip to Talladega with a bunch of cookies in hand. Now, from what I was hearing from people that are there at the shop, your daughter is quite the baker and has become like a necessity for the week-to-week comings and goings with the RFK team. So I'm going to let you tell us what's going on, because I hear you're providing the sweet tooth thanks to your daughter, sir.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's something she started doing, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years ago. She started just something she enjoys, baking. Like she makes cakes, she makes macarons, cookies.
Ooh, nice.
She bakes all kinds of stuff. So then that like that turned into, hey, let's bring some to the track and see what the guys think. And now it's turned into a weekly necessity. And I think at Bristol, Priest told me, he said, hey man, I was bringing him in the hall, and he's like, oh, are those the cookies? I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you got to make sure those things are here every week. They're like jet fuel for my jack man. So he's like, I'll pay for them just to make sure they're here every week. So, it's turned into something that everybody likes. And, she enjoys doing it. So it's, I don't know, it's just something that's caught on, and it's become a weekly thing.
By the way, the cookies.
How old is she?
She's 18 now.
Oh, wow.
She's
cool.
18,
so
yeah.
She's,
Senior in high school.
Nice. Very cool.
So the special cookies, all right, just so everybody out there understands what these cookies are, they look like chocolate chip. On the surface, they look like, home-baked chocolate chip cookies. You bite into them, though, and you realize it's a whole s'more inside the cookie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. It's next level.
Like chocolate chip s'mores cookie. Yeah, those are the best. And then you put them in the microwave for a couple seconds, and you get them to melt, and they're like, oh yeah, they're really good.
So this is what's fueling RFK on a weekly basis.
Well, see, we're not supposed to give away proprietary information, but here we are.
Wonderful cookies. It's the wonderful cookies, certainly. Okay, how did your daughter? You said she's been doing it 4 or 5 years, so she started when she was like 13, 14.
Yeah.
And, which is kind of cool that as a senior that she still wants to do this and is a part of it. So how much it's got to be cool for you because it's like she's a part of the team, right? Like she's got a little place in everything. What is it like when you're gone as much as you are? Is it kind of like when you have those cookies with you, is it almost like a reminder of being home with your kids? I mean, it's got to be kind of a nice little gesture almost subconsciously, no?
Yeah, for sure. It ties in. I mean, it always gives us something to talk about. And like, she's always like, hey, how'd everybody like the cookies this week? Because it's, there's the staple of the s'mores cookies, but then usually there's something else kind of on the side.
Oh, nice.
Just to see what everybody thought about it. So, and I
love that.
She loves coming to the races too. So like, she'll actually come to the track for like the whole weekend with me sometimes. She loves to like sit up on the pit box and listen to all the communications going on and things like that. So she's a fan, and it definitely makes her kind of like part of the team, and everybody knows where the cookies come from.
So I'm curious, Mike, if his 18-year-old daughter is a baker and a fan of racing, I would imagine senior in high school, there's some decisions about what are we doing after high school. So college baking, are we going to join dad and the racing? Like, what's going on here?
Sounds like she has some options.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I tried to talk her into the racing stuff for a little bit. Right now, she's leaning towards biology.
It goes hand in hand with cookies.
It's
a science project.
It's really kind of like neither of them, right? So it's right now she's looking at biology. And we'll see. Like, I don't know. I know when I first went to college, I think I was going to be like an English major or something like that. I was thinking of like law and all those things, like, oh, this sounds really good. And then probably within the first week, I was like, nah, I think mechanical engineering is where I want to be.
Sounds familiar. I was thinking about law and at one point pre-med, and I said, you know what? Communications, that sounds better. Yeah, a lot less school.
Yeah,
and that led me down this road.
I could see Mike as a lawyer, though. I could see you got a good voice for it and a good look for it. You would be good.
Who knows? Now on this stage, everybody needs a lawyer, right? So who knows?
I think some people know like right away.
That's right.
When they go to college, they know what they want to do and they don't change. And I think a lot of people, it's like it takes them a little bit to find their way and figure it out.
And they always find their way.
That's right.
And she will
sometimes to the NASCAR, to the world of NASCAR is where they find their way out of nowhere. From English majors to the garage, to the shop. I love that. Scott Graves, our guest. Well, we had to talk about the cookies because it's all I've been hearing about is how good these things are, and I'm not shocked that Priest is the one that is demanding that they're there on a weekly basis. I'm not shocked. Now, is Chris a big cookie guy? Is he a cookie consumer?
He doesn't eat a lot of them. I think, he's trying
not
to...
Not a sweets guy,
He might, take one on the down low, but I think he's not a big sweets guy.
Watching his figure.
And I know Brad, it's tough with him because he's got this deal this year where he's allowing himself like one dessert a month or something like that. And, and like a piece of chocolate is considered dessert, so he's a tough customer right now. We're not getting a lot of business there.
Well, I'm sure.
But I think the rest of his guys like him, so
I'm sure they do. I'm sure, and Brad's probably suffering inside when it comes to not being able to enjoy that. If he set himself to one dessert a month, that sounds like hell. Quite frankly,
yeah, it does.
That's 12 sugar indulgences a year. Which
that's it. Yeah.
No, I mean that's not happening. I know he's a pro athlete, but come on, Brad, you could at least have two.
Yeah,
you could at least up it to two. Well, I love that. So this past, we'll get into Talladega in a minute, but this past week you had a week off. So I believe last year during a little vacation time, you went overseas, right? Didn't you get to go? Did you do anything special this week, or was it more of a decompress, get ready for the holiday kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, this one, it's a lot shorter break. Obviously, last year we had that full 2 weeks, so it was a really good chance to go do something we don't normally get to do. This one here just being a quick week. Our son had already had planned to do the Boston Marathon. He had qualified for it. It's my wife and I. It was our 24th anniversary weekend.
Congrats.
On the 21st yesterday. So we kind of combine it all together. And we went to Boston and watched our son run the marathon and kind of celebrate our anniversary together as a family there. So it was like a quick trip, a quick week off, and then right back to it.
So I went to college in Boston, so I've seen the marathon up close and the environment of which it happens in. How would you describe it? How would you describe just the vibe in the city? I mean, we've been to racetracks and seen auto races. How would you describe the atmosphere around a foot race?
Yeah, it was pretty neat. I mean, it would be to be a runner in that race would be a lot of fun because it's like you'd have constant crowd motivating you or like cheering you on from mile 1 to mile 26 to the finish line. Yeah, I couldn't believe the crowds that were there all weekend, and then on race day itself, we went and tried to watch them at a couple of points along the marathon. Every stop we went to, just massive crowds of people, just cheering, and it's pretty neat event. I mean, I've been to some smaller, marathon type events or even 5Ks and things like that, but nothing like that.
Could you run a marathon?
I did last.
You did?
Last December.
All right. Where?
For the first time. It was in Huntsville, Alabama.
Okay.
Yeah, I soldiered through one.
You've done one. How about, is there number 2 in the future?
I would like to say yes. It's so hard to train for it though. Like I say I muscled through it because like I kept getting injuries in the training. And I would say like I had a bare minimum of training to be able to do it. And it was like, I got through it, but I could barely walk when I was done.
I bet.
So
how was your kid? I mean, I know your son's younger. Like, is he able to like live a normal existence and eat dinner when it's over? Because I think I would actually, that would be it. I'd finish and die. I'd be done. It's over.
He was, that's me. Like I was really struggling when it was over. He got done and he was like, the last 3 or 4 miles were really hard. He said, my legs blew up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Are you okay? He's like, oh yeah. And then it's like, all right, well, let's walk a mile back to the hotel. And he just, we walked back with us like it was,
come on.
It was nothing. It's like, well, they must not have been blown up too bad. But he said he's.
That's another, like, superhuman to some people like me. Like
he said he's sore today, but he's young. It's the gift of youth and recovery and all that kind of stuff to get through those kind of things.
I'm on Team Chris. Yeah, I'd be about the same way as you.
You'd be riding a scooter.
Yeah, I think a 5K is pushing it for me.
Yeah. So. Taxi. Yeah. I need help. Get me back to the hotel. I'm not moving my feet another inch.
Yeah.
I admire that. I admire you, and I admire him for being able to do that. That's pretty awesome. And I'm sure, like, the Boston Marathon's got to be one of those things. If you complete that, if you do that, are you done with your bucket list at that point? I mean, what else is there to do?
No,
what does your son want to do next?
So that's the thing. Like, when you do, like, the Boston Marathon is a major, like, and there's now 7 majors. There used to be just 6, and then I think they added Sydney Marathon to it. So, like, yeah, a lot of these guys, they get into, like, they do one major, then they're like, oh, well, now I need to do another one.
I gotta do it,
and then it's a thing to, like, finish all the majors.
Yeah, of course.
So it's
addictive, right?
Yeah. I mean, to be able to say you did them all, and then, like, you get special recognition if you actually are able to compete in and complete all the majors. So I would say that's he hasn't come out and said it, but I know he's already said, like, his time that he ran yesterday qualifies him. He can either run like Chicago or New York next year if he wants to. And he's already talking about that, so I'm going to say he's eventually, at some point, he's going to want to finish all of them. So, yeah, he does all kinds of stuff. He does marathons. He does triathlons. He's pretty active. Just likes to do all kinds of things like that. So, yeah,
good for him.
Blows me away, Mike.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
I find it interesting.
The Graves family is pretty cool.
Yeah. They are. Yeah, the Graves family has quite. Every one of them has a story. In fact, Scott and I were talking a little bit before we went on camera about his family in racing. He has cousins who have a lot of folks out there listening are quite aware of. Fred Graves, who was a crew chief in the sport. Also, Andy Graves, also a crew chief in the sport at one point. They've held prominent roles in NASCAR, and they all come from the same gene pool, right? So in Central New York, you guys are all related.
Yep, all from there. And Fred is the one that got me my start. Gave me my first opportunity on a Truck Series team as an engineer working with him. So it's definitely a lot of the family has been in the sport, involved with it for a while.
How does Central New York? So I know Mike's from the Connecticut, where I like talking to guys from the Northeast because, a lot of times we find people from the Southeast in the sport. But New York, Central New York, from a racing perspective, I know Mike's from Connecticut. We've talked about that scene, but how does it compare? What does the racing scene look like that you grew up with?
So it's a little bit roundabout, but so when I was fairly young, I call it. I'm trying to think. We ended up moving to Texas when I was in 4th or 5th grade. But prior to that, we would go to Oswego, which is where like Fred and his brother Ron, they ran basically a super modified team there that they would run at Oswego. So I would go see that, and I guess that's kind of probably what got my interest as a young kid. And then my dad, once we moved to Texas, we lived in El Paso, so we would go over to Phoenix a lot. Had some relatives there, and we would watch Indy cars race at Phoenix, and we would watch the NASCAR races at Phoenix. And so a couple of times a year I would do that. And it really wasn't until the whole conversation about finding your way when you go to college and what you want to do. I mean, that was kind of me. I mean, I went through college, got the mechanical engineering degree, came out, worked in industry and all that, but always wanted to do something different. And my first step into it was with SCCA, and I think we had talked about about this last year or at some point. But so I kind of started in New York when I would go watch them race and be part of that, but then kind of developed it on my own later through the SCCA racing. But through all that, I always kept in touch with Fred, and I would always with the car that I was racing, I would say, hey, what do you think about this? Where do you think I need to be on setup, weight distribution, questions like that. I'd always talk to him, and he would give me some pointers, and I would go work on it. And then just through that conversation with him, he kind of got a feel for, hey, seems like he's intelligent enough to work on a car and know what he's doing, and he's figuring all these things out for himself. And say from there, that turned into an actual opportunity in NASCAR.
When you were studying mechanical engineering, was the end goal always to be in racing, or were you maybe thinking, I'm going to go build airplane engines or something like that? What was the goal while you were studying it?
Just to get a job.
Okay, I got you.
To get a job when I was done. I don't know. That's it's at that, I look at it at that point in my life at that age, I don't know. I didn't necessarily have
I don't think that's unique. I think everyone 18 to 20 years old is still kind of searching.
Yeah. I mean, it's I knew the curriculum and what I was learning. It was that fits with the kind of stuff I like. So I mean, that part of it was good, but I really didn't know what. And in Texas, I went to Texas Tech University. The majority of the opportunities at that point in time were all in oil and gas industry.
Okay, that makes sense.
Being in that part of the country.
Sure.
So that's where I worked for Halliburton when I came out of college. That was
for those of us who know everything we know about the oil and gas industry from watching the show Landman. Yes, we realize it's a big deal.
Yeah.
Little pop culture.
But I look at it now and it's man, I should have been in Formula SAE. I should have been. And that would have been really cool. I think about it now, it's I don't know why I didn't, because they had I think they had a Formula Baja team type thing there. They actually had a group, and I look back at it and I was I don't know why I wasn't part of that. that would have been fun, but it's I don't know. I just didn't have it all figured out at that point in time.
Who does at that age?
Nobody. They say youth is wasted on the young, right?
Truly is.
If only we actually had a little wiseness when we had the energy.
Yeah.
Imagine the things we could accomplish as human beings.
That's right.
Let's take a break. Come back. We got more with Scott Graves. Let's take a look at Talladega coming up from the perspective of the number 17 car. We'll get into it next right here. Chris Childers, Mike Massaro with Scott Graves on Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing. We're back here on Backstretch Banner, Sirius XM, NASCAR, Channel 90, Backstretch with RFK. Chris Childers, Mike Massaro. We got our guest, Scott Graves, alongside the crew chief of the number 17 Ford Mustang, which this week will be decked out in the Travel Centers of America paint scheme. She'll look pretty darn slick out there on the track at Talladega. Let's get into Dega. It is one of the most interesting races from a people watching perspective. It's always fun being at a super speedway. I think it's the most famous track in NASCAR, not named Daytona. You could say it's because of the movie. You could say whatever the hell it is, but everybody knows Talladega. So let's get into it. Scott Graves, do you look forward to this one? Where does Talladega stack up to you as a crew chief?
Talladega is a wild card to me. The speedways really have become, the last few years, with this car, like the handling has become so good across the field, as different rules have been put onto them. It's the field is so close, and you're not really at a handling limit, so it's a very tough race to like manage and call, and to figure out to get it just right, because you got to do everything right, but you also have to have like a high amount of luck in the end to make it work. So it's like you got to be perfect all day, and then like say the luck has to go your way towards the end to avoid the wrecks, the things that happen. There's just a lot to it, and it's tough because like and it's really, it comes down to that final stage. If you're going for the win, this is going to sound really obvious, but it's track position in the final stage of the race. And it sounds really easy, but it's really hard to get, just because everybody's so close. And it's like, I guess the way I relate it is like, it's like going down a 3-lane highway, maybe a 4-lane highway that's packed with traffic. And like, if you're stuck at the back of the line and they're 4 wide, there's just nowhere to go. And like, you're stuck, and it's really hard to figure out how to maneuver through that to get to the front at the end of the race.
And survive.
Yeah, and survive.
To be there, right? I mean, we've seen some incredible crashes. I mean, the term "the big one" has taken on even a different meaning recently. I mean, I think there was it a 28-car crash? The last time we were there. So, just with that on your mind, what can you do just as a preemptive strategy to try to prevent that?
Yeah.
Just try to stay out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because like even that strategy, so like when I worked with Newman a few years ago, like he was great at that strategy of just laying back, just kind of staying out of it. I think like 2019, I think we had the highest average finish on the speedway races because he was so good at that, just laying back, and then just being there at the end. Mm-hmm. But even that's changed a little bit now. It's hard to even do that. So so you gotta avoid the wrecks, but really to win the race, you gotta run up front all day. It's like you can lay back and play that strategy, but the best it's going to get you is maybe like a 5th to 10th place finish at the end of the day. And that's only if the big wreck happens, which, like say, now has even started to change a little bit. I think there was one, I don't know if it was last year, maybe the first race. There was one of the races where we were kind of playing that, the way our race went, we're like, all right, we're just going to have to default to the layback and see what happens. And then nothing ever happened. and you end up finishing like 20th and like there's not a scratch on the car and you're like, what just happened? Like we just rode at the back waiting for a wreck that never happened. And okay. So it's like, you really got to try to maintain that track position and be up front all day if you want a shot at the win.
For sure. Daytona, I think back to Daytona and how RFK's cars, all 3 of them, were very fast.
Yeah.
How much confidence does that give you going into this week?
It's good. I mean, our speedway cars are always really good. I mean, it's like I say, the across the board, the field's closed up quite a bit, but the drivability, raceability, like even here, some of our competitors will talk about how well the RFK cars take a push and how well they can push, that kind of stuff. So I feel like that's one part of it we've got that is in our advantage, just that maneuverability, and we try to use that to where we can get some people to work with us, knowing that we've got really good cars that can push people to the front, or if we got somebody that's behind us, they know they can push us, and two cars are still, you get them hooked up, you can make some ground. So I do feel like that is one advantage we've got that works out pretty well for us at these races.
Talladega coming up this weekend. The Travel Centers of America will be on the side of the 17, on the hood on the 17. Should be a lot of fun to watch that race this week on a wild card race, but it's Talladega, and it's a lot of fun for any spectator out there. Hell, I always tell people, you want to go to one race just to A, watch racing, and B, watch people. That's it. I mean, it is an event into itself. I'm sure Massaro and Graves would describe it in completely different ways, because like Massaro's covered it and Graves works it from a racing perspective. Graves, do you see the crazy crap when you're there, or is that shielded from you?
Oh yeah, I mean we see it like at some point during the weekend. It's always like it's fun to kind of like, as you're leaving the track or coming in, like you take a detour and drive through the infield before you go park, just to see what's going on. There's a lot. There's definitely a lot going on there.
Talladega Boulevard. I mean, it's got its own name.
That's right.
Right.
Sarah, what's the craziest thing when you covered a race there that you saw?
Goodness,
There's got to be a memory that sticks out when you think of the track.
I mean, not really. Honestly,
Really?
I was a good boy.
But you still see it.
They
I
were
mean,
school nights. I went back to the hotel, went to bed on time. I didn't go out partying with some of those folks, but I do know some who did, and I've heard stories. Listen, it's like a big Mardi Gras, right? So there's a lot of enjoyment happening in the infield, especially after hours, where some adult beverages are being consumed, and some other things are going on that, this is a family show, we won't go into. But it's a rather raucous environment in the infield the night before the race. The fans are getting their money's worth, that's for sure. And it's not just about watching the race on Sunday.
They've always got a good concert there. I mean, guys always like to go and see that part of it. There's a lot going on there. It's it is a good race to go to if you want to get the full experience.
Yeah, a lot of campers, a lot of partying, and a lot of great, exciting racing on Sunday.
It is.
And Saturday, I guess.
It's the best. It really is. It's the best weekend in motorsports, in my opinion. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We got another segment with Scott. We got to talk about the Michigan tire test that we alluded to a couple weeks ago when we were talking to the crew chief of the number 60. So we will get into that when we come back right here on Backstretch Banter. We're back here on Backstretch Banter with RFK Racing, Sirius XM NASCAR Channel 90, Chris Childers, and Mike Massaro. We have been lucky to be joined by Scott Graves today, the crew chief of the Ford Mustang number 17, the Travel Centers of America Ford Mustang 17 this weekend. Kroger will be on the side of the 60 with the Celsius, which I cannot live a day without one of those. So love that. And buildsubmarines.com, we have praised that partner throughout the weeks. And we encourage you, if you need a career and you're an engineer, you go with your hands and you want to help your country, no better way to do it than buildsubmarines.com. So go check that out. Scott, Michigan, I know there was a recent test. People were wondering if it was going to be too cold to figure out anything of meaning, but excited to gain some information nonetheless. How did it go? You guys were there. Busher was there. What did you take away, if anything?
Yeah, I was surprised. I was one of those going into it that I thought it's probably going to be too cold to learn a lot. But there was actually, because my concern was going to be like, we're just going to be running wide open for a whole run, and it's going to be hard to tell much difference. But it actually was, I thought the differences between tires, Chris could tell there was, it wasn't just wide open all the way around. There was maybe a couple laps early in a run that we had that, but then there was enough fall off afterward where, it was, he was having to get out of the throttle, and then that way you could actually tell the difference in feel and handle of the different tires. I think, primary goal, they were looking to add just a tiny bit of grip from where we've been there the last couple of years. And they also were working on some right side construction options, just from a durability standpoint that they wanted to test out. So I feel like, they were able to get through all that and get the answers they wanted. They even brought some really high fall off tires for us to try that were pretty effective. They can definitely create that when they want to. So, I think that from the Goodyear NASCAR side, they were able to learn the things that they wanted to.
Do you have an indication which tire they're bringing back?
I think it'll be a new, like the left side, I think will be new. One of the variations that we tested, more in line with what we run at all the other 1.5 miles intermediate tracks. Right now, like the left side at Michigan was unique. Both the lefts and the rights were unique to Michigan. So I think the left side is going to be more in line with what we're running at the other intermediates, and I think that's where the grip's going to come from. And the rights are probably going to remain largely the same as what we've had at Michigan. It's more of a kind of a super speedway type compound or tire on that on the right side that we use there.
Is that important for crew chiefs to get that time with the manufacturer, with the tire manufacturer?
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, from my standpoint, I looked at it like, they threw a variety of tires across the car. We got to see, some concepts that they're thinking about, like, mention the high fall off direction. So, I mean, it just gives us an idea, like, to actually try it and see, okay, here's where some concepts they're thinking about. Just a chance to possibly preview, the left side tire that we'll probably be racing when we go back. Just different things like that. It gives you a little bit of information. I wouldn't call it a ton, but where we're at right now in terms of minimal testing and the information that's coming in, it's like, you'll take anything you can get, and it's all valuable at this point.
It's interesting. You said you were a little concerned that it might be a little too cool, a little too the weather-wise, to really get anything. How cold was it? What was it like weather-wise? And how would you think that's going to compare to when we go back for real?
So, I mean, it was in the low 40s. In the morning when it started out, it was the low 30s. When we first got there, it was cold. But by the afternoon, mid-afternoon, late afternoon, it was low to mid 40s, but the sun was out, so that was reasonable. I mean, it's likely to be 75 to 80 when we go back. Right. I think usually it's low 80s, high 70s, low 80s when we go there. So it'll be quite a bit different, which is just going to equate to less throttle time. I mean, it's just a little less grip overall. They'll be out of the gas a little bit more, but the a lot of the characteristics will be similar. So it just changes, obviously, usually just the grip levels and the amount of throttle time they're able to carry. So I think, it was cold, but it's, they were able to tell what they needed to learn from it.
I'm sure they factor that in, right? They've got some sort of algorithm, for the lack of a better word, that helps them calibrate the tire from 40-degree temperatures to 70-degree temperatures, which I'm sure you guys do the same type of compensation when you try to figure out how you're going to attack the race with those tires. Yeah,
and the other good part about it is, like, you would almost consider, I mean, the pace that we were able to carry through a run with the tires there would be worst case load and everything on the tires.
Scott Graves, crew chief, 17. Absolute pleasure. Scott, thanks for being with us, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it every time. It's a lot of fun.
That's what I told you at the beginning. You said it was a build-up. He's a rock star. He's the best. We love him. That's Scott Graves, crew chief of the 17. We're done. Mike Massaro, a pleasure. As always, I am Chris Childers, and we will see you next week. Enjoy Talladega. It's Backstretch Banter with RFK.